Welcome to Haunted Basildon. The beautiful Georgian house Bergstead Lodge in the High Street, Billericay, has a spine-chilling story told of a haunted bedroom at the back of the building. The story was recounted by J.A. Sparville Bailey, who lived there in the late 1870s and early 1880s. He told how an old retainer in the 19th century was engaged to be a night nurse to a young, unknown gentleman at Bergstead Lodge. He was in a critical condition and was not to be spoken to unless necessary. The house, let to a known resident nobleman and lived in by members of his family, had little to do with local tradesmen. On the first night, as the nurse sat by the smoldering log fire and the huge fireplace, there were no sounds but the moaning of the wind. At midnight, the patient breathed heavily and seemed uneasy, and the nurse was surprised to see a lady in a green silk gown with a black veil over her bonnet sitting by the bedhead. The nurse was unalarmed and curtsied and moved towards the bed. However, the lady motioned her to be seated, so the nurse sat and wondered how, and when the lady had come in, it was cold and late for a visitor, and she had been told that no visitors came. The lady sat watching the patient and repulsed the nurse when she approached the bed to help the patient, who was very uneasy. At last, the nurse closed her eyes for a moment. The lady had disappeared. The nurse felt uneasy and somewhat creepy and was thinking that she would give up her engagement when heavy breathing of her patient made her look up to see the lady in the green gown again seated by his bed. The nurse thought she must be an inmate of the house, as her dress, the very low-bodice summer costume of the period, was quite unsuitable for the inclement weather. When the nurse rose to go to the bed, she waved her back. The patient's agitation, however, so increased that the nurse did approach the bed in spite of the lady's gestures. The lady drew her veil across her face and retired to the window. The patient appeared in agony, with drops of perspiration rolling down his face, while his eyes followed the lady in her glittering gown, and he repulsed all the nurse's offers of help. The next morning, the nurse was found cold and numb on the floor, and the patient appeared to have been dead for many hours. The mysterious young man was buried in the parish church with a lavish funeral. A gentleman whose features bore a striking resemblance to the effigy upon the coin of the realm, and a London physician alone followed the body to the grave. A plain and exquisite tablet was placed in the church a year afterwards bearing the words, "Charles Leroy died the 29th of February, 18. Remember." The poor nurse died 3 months after her dreadful ordeal, and the gloomy chamber was said to have a strange feeling of awe and coldness by whoever occupied it afterwards, although nothing was ever seen or heard to alarm the weakest nerves.